Welcome
Okay.
to.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. I will share slides here in just a second. Let me just give you my full attention first. Um, I am the director of the software community at NI. I've been at NI just about 19 years at this point. Uh, I was the LabVIEW product manager for many, many years. I know I've met several of you on this call. Some of you, uh, I spoke with at GDevCon, but I'm also often in Europe. Um, but just a few quick notes about myself. I spent a lot of time in LabVIEW and specifically working on LabVIEW for large complex test systems. I went off to go do a different stint in the transportation business unit for a few years. That kind of took me away from LabVIEW and the core of the business, but I have since returned with the specific charter of really re-engaging with the user community and helping to drive the software strategy. And it's been a year now. And we used NI Connect as an opportunity to reflect on the last year and all the things that we said we were going to do and to gauge the extent to which we had made progress on some of those ambitions. And what I want to attempt to do in the time we have today is summarize the state of the strategy and some of the progress that we've made, both in the product and with regards to the larger overall strategy. I will say that the last several months to year at NI has been a little bit like going back in time. There's been a return to our focus on core products. A lot of core members of the team have come back, myself included, to really renew the focus on LabVIEW and the broad base of our DAC and software portfolio. We still have a lot of work to do, but when in a forum like this, I want to share with you our plans, and I always want to invite feedback, discussion, concerns, because so much of what you're seeing has really been the result of making an effort to engage with our users and to listen to feedback. And I think NI Connect was a fantastic opportunity to do that at a significant scale. I will tell you my personal takeaway was a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I am joined by Austin Hill, who is also a longtime NIer and leads our product management team. Austin, can you confirm that you're on and able to hear everybody?
I am. Howdy. Good morning.
Awesome.
Good afternoon.
Howdy. So between Austin and myself, do you want to give a quick background on yourself before we get into slides?
Yeah, I'll do 1 minute. Like Eli said, I lead our software product management team, which includes LabVIEW as well as testing and the rest of the app software. And similarly, Eli, really excited. I've been all over software and hardware product management over the past 10 years, but excited to where we're investing in LabVIEW. We get to show you some of the fun new stuff today.
Yeah. Austin and I are very directly involved with all the investments and how we're spending our R&D cycles. I mean, Austin's team specifically owns a roadmap and the investment plan, so he is the right person to share all of your concerns, feedback, ideas, etc. Anyway, there's so much to get into. I have until 10 o'clock. Is that correct? We have until 10 o'clock. Or sorry, we have an hour from now. I realize you're okay. I see heads nodding. Yeah. All right. So
yes.
awesome. So we're just a few days on the other side of NI Connect, as I mentioned. And when I saw this on my calendar, of course, we've been sharing this a lot in recent months, but I wanted to integrate some of the latest materials from NI Connect to give you an update on some of the things we announced last week. So you're going to see some slides that only people at NI Connect have seen. And to that end, I wanted to try to give you a little bit of a taste of all the things that were kind of announced and exciting at NI Connect. So here's what Austin and I came up with. I will say in an hour, it's a lot to get through. So if anything is really interesting and warrants a deep dive or a follow-up, let us know. And for example, when we touch on AI, that can be a full session into itself, and we can arrange that for a future user group, or if you or your colleagues want to have a deep dive, we can make that happen as well. So this is what we're going to try to get through. Let's dive in. So the software strategy that we communicated at NI Connect is the same one we've been sharing for the better part of the last year. It's really built around these 3 pillars with LabVIEW and our software platform at the core of it. When we talk about strengthening software, this means an increased investment, more R&D resources and people working on the core technologies. And A lot of that is a reflection of we spent the last several years with a focus on systems and these higher level solutions even. And what you're seeing is a renewed focus on the core products and the broad base, and especially LabVIEW. And at the core of our philosophy to our software, our ambition is that LabVIEW is the greatest possible tool for interacting with the physical world and extending the higher level starting points of the tools it is complemented with. So we just heard a really great overview of custom step types and test stand. That's a great example. Of course, test stand has existed for many decades with the ambition of providing a higher level starting point that for anybody that wants to have a test executive, right? We saw too many people creating their own test executive. Same is true for HIL test benches, and even more recently for interactive debugging workflows with software panels and instrumentation, referring to Instrument Studio. So again, the idea here is that LabVIEW needs to be the best possible way to extend and customize those products, but that wherever possible, we want to give you these higher level starting points. And that brings me to these connected workflows. For anyone that's used a lot of these products throughout the years, it is fair to say that we could do a better job of ensuring that as you pass between test stand and LabVIEW and Diadem or FlexLogger and LabVIEW, that these tools are really built to play nice together and then maximize the productivity of users as they move between them. So Austin's entire team and how they're structured and how they're defining roadmaps is really built not around these product silos, but around the workflows we target. So think production test or validation or data logging or HIL as examples. And again, the ambition is that as we're investing in our products, that we're really strengthening the connectivity between them and identifying these gaps in key customer workflows, which has given rise to things like Instrument Studio, which I think is a really exciting example of a higher level starting point that makes our tools more productive. Something we don't even plan to get into, but I want to highlight that as an example. Another slide to kind of frame our approach to our software roadmap is I think it's funny to reflect on if I were in person, I would ask, but many of our users are by trade electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, often physicists or scientists. Most importantly, not degreed computer scientists, not software engineers, at least not originally. And it's often the case that people start on their journey with test and measurement on the left side of the spectrum. They just want to get some interactivity with the physical world into software. And it works so well because of how great LabVIEW is that they're quickly asked to add additional capabilities and now help this other group out. And suddenly they have to create reuse libraries and care about working with other internal clients. And as was just mentioned in the last session, they care about automating build processes and having configuration management. And my point is, over time, we've turned a lot of our customers by accident into software engineers, right? We've suddenly had them learning about factory patterns and plugin architectures and CI and CD. And it's really, I think, speaks to how we've empowered domain experts to build really sophisticated software. But my point is, when it comes to our investment plans, we recognize that we need to service the right side of the spectrum as much as the left side of the spectrum, right? The tooling and the processes that go into coordinating teams of developers and really achieving operational excellence in terms of efficiency and all of the tasks related to software engineering is in the crosshairs of our focus, in addition to the new user experience and how to enable new people to get started. Some of you may say, you know what, I'm just building simple measurements in a lab bench. And of course, that continues to be something we're focused on. I think the point is for any of you that identify more with the right side of the spectrum, you're going to see more of a focus on some of the tooling and operational excellence. So at a very, very high level, these are the 8 investment themes that are multi-year journeys and span all of our products. And this is a good slide to take a beat, soak it in. We'll show you some specific examples, and we can come back to this if anyone wants to comment on the relative importance, the priority, maybe things that might be missing from this list. But you're going to see a focus on streamlining time to measurement, referring to that left side of the spectrum, all the way through to development operations or DevOps when it comes to CI, CD, containerization, how you submit pull requests via GitHub, et cetera. And of course, as we'll talk about, a lot of that is also very, very integrated with our ambitions to make more of our products open source. There's also a big focus on system security, and of course, continuing our commitment to interoperation with other leading languages like .NET and Python. And as we've set time to talk about, of course, AI. AI was front and center at NI Connect. We had some very exciting announcements. We will touch on those today and give you a sense of when you will actually be able to get your hands on some of those tools later this summer. Okay, but I want to start with the collection of new features and capabilities that were brought to or are coming to the Q3 release of LabVIEW, which is due out here in just a few months. There's a lot. And I think that's a market change from the last few years because, again, we have significantly increased our investment and we've started to do things like actually return our focus to ID Exchange. So if anyone used to submit to ID Exchange and kind of stopped because it felt like we weren't engaging, you were right. And we changed that. That's a very concrete example of, I think there are now 13 new features in LabVIEW 2025 that were from ID Exchange. So please do feel empowered to submit those ideas, engage with us. Looking at the slide, there's some I don't even plan to talk to go into, but I want to call out. We stopped releasing LabVIEW for Mac a few years ago. And as a Mac user, I missed it, but also a lot of students in academia prefer and use Apple devices. So based on feedback, we are going to relaunch LabVIEW for Mac, referring to the Q3 release. So that will come back out for Apple Silicon when we release. You can see a number of other ones here. One I want to call out, we got a lot of feedback about PPLs in recent years, about the build time and how long that took. That has been a huge focus area. If you saw the keynote on day 2, I was joined by a consultant who talked about how between the improvements we made to PPLs and some of the open source efforts, they saw build times decrease by 30%. And we've also addressed a lot of the complexities of very intricate class-based architectures like Active Framework and some of the complexities they introduced with PPLs. That is an ongoing effort for us, but we've already seen some pretty big improvements. Okay, let me give you a crash course in some of the new editor features. We'll start with the basics, and we'll go more towards the right side of the spectrum here in a second. So first off, the Q3 release is not yet out as a final product, but you can download the beta at ni.com/beta, so feel free to do so. Austin, remind me the exact date when Q3 is expected to ship.
I believe it's July 12th. It's in the second week of July.
Okay, so coming up pretty soon. Okay, so many of you know we added Zoom just a few releases ago. One of the things we've added to this latest release is this shortcut so that if you zoom in and you're working on one side of the diagram, you can press F2, it'll return you to no zoom. And then if you move your mouse to another part of the diagram and press F2, it'll then reuse that same level of magnification to zoom in on that part of your diagram. So it just makes it easier to hop around. You can see there, toggle zoom is the F2 shortcut. Of course, it's in the menu. So there we use our scroll wheel and control. We zoom in, we press F2, zooms us back out. I mouse over to the other side, F2, zooms back in. Again, I'm starting with kind of the fun little productivity answers that I think many of you will find valuable. There is the ability to now quickly open a specific file. This also came from ID Exchange using Control-Shift-O. So you can, rather than navigate the find recents or the program directory, you can just hit Control-Shift-O, type the name, and once it's completed, hit enter to actually open that file directly. So in this one, if we put a diagram disable structure around a portion of our code, as you're seeing here, ref nums and classes do not use default if unwired. So it keeps those wired pass through, just saving some clicks as you add those to your diagram. In context help, we've added additional information about the VI properties. So now when you hover over a VI, you can see things like reentrancy, execution priority, etc. So you don't have to press Control-I and wait and to navigate the VI property dialog to see the state of these various settings. Another ID Exchange post. Another one. Of course, we all trained to use Control-A to select text, but if you were in a text box and hit that, it would select everything on your front panel. Now, if what's active on your cursor is the string in a text box, it actually does what you would think it would. Another ID Exchange post. Oh, I hate seeing a slide word wrap like that, and I will blame the fact that we quickly amalgamated content from NI Connect and merged templates. Forgive me. So quick change palette. So here we can actually select a section of code that you want to disable, and you can press the key shortcut Control-Shift-Space. So that's the same shortcut as quick drop to display the quick change palette. So in Q1, you can actually wrap the code in a sequence structure with high resolution relative second calls before and after your code. So that way you can quickly measure the execution speed of code. So here you can see an example, and that's designed to make debugging a lot easier. So when you click there, it should show you, boom, something many people have done to benchmark code, and now you can do it quickly from the quick change palette. Okay, so the debugging window is new in 2025 Q3, and this is basically combining the probe and breakpoint manager. Breakpoint manager still exists on its own, but I think we're kind of waiting to see if it needs to continue existing or if we could remove it from future versions of LabVIEW. So this now lists all breakpoints and probes for all VIs in memory, and this is actually configurable with an INI token, so you can change the format string of what's shown in this box. The right-click menu in the debug window also allows you to add, remove, rename, highlight, and you can export data for probes and breakpoints. You can also disable breakpoints and add and remove probes and breakpoints from the right-click menu here. Let's see, what else here? So you can show and hide probe display. You can keep this window on top. You can keep the values on wires. So again, we're trying to really capitalize on the advantage of LabVIEW for debugging complex software and look for these opportunities to make it even better. This is actually showing from the debug window how you can show the values on the actual wires. So you click that, and that will actually overlay those values during execution. So there you go. You can see them, and then as it executes, you actually see those values populate. Another one too is you can actually export these to clipboard, so you can easily get that into a Word editor or Notepad to more easily see the string value of those data values. And you can rename them, so that way, I know when I end up with a ton of probes, number 16 doesn't really mean anything to me, but you can change those names and make it more meaningful to make it easier to navigate all of the debugging information. Okay, here's a big one. I think safe to assume a lot of us turn off automatic error handling in LabVIEW because we hate that little pop-up dialog, and hopefully everybody does perfect error handling and all of the coding that they do. But there's a new third option now, which is to actually generate a log file based on unwired error. So instead of popping up the dialog, you can actually shove all that information to a log file. And that way it won't disrupt or change the operation of your code, but you will still be able to catch and see those in the log offline. Okay, so that's kind of the easy fun stuff, as it were. I mean, everything's fun, but the editor enhancements that many of us can capitalize on, again, please do feel empowered to submit additional ideas or vote on what is Idea Exchange. I will tell you, we review those every Monday at 9 a.m. with Darren Nattinger. So but let's move on to one of the more right side of the spectrum topics, which is how we're enabling collaborative development workflows. So you may remember that was listed under this DevOps item. This is a focus across the platform. We're going to zoom into some of the new enhancements that are specific to LabVIEW. And I will comment too that when we talk about open sourcing more of the platform, as Jesper well knows, we're talking about working with a global team of people, and they're sharing and working together on LabVIEW projects. And this is really a forcing function for us to make sure that we have world-class, sophisticated tooling and infrastructure in place to enable this, and that we're simplifying some of the complexities that are just the result of LabVIEW being graphical. It is also something that is a really, really popular and important topic for a lot of our large customers. In fact, I was recently working with a customer in Northern California. They have a 50-person team. They have a 50-person team working on a code base that is about 40,000 VIs split across 400 projects. It's all active framework based, and it's all building PPLs. So you can imagine, like, that's a great example of they have some really sophisticated team-based development tools and infrastructure in place to coordinate that. And they're not alone. We see more and more people again, winding up on that right side of the spectrum, even if their background is mechanical engineering. Okay, so one of the first things to hit is the version independent collaboration. This is something you may already be aware of. It first shipped in Q3 of last year. I bring it up though because it is a precursor towards a lot of these editor enhancements, both the ones we're going to talk about and even the ones we just looked at. So if anyone here is thinking, my team is in LabVIEW 2017 and I have no interest in upgrading anytime soon, 2020 or 2021, whatever, know that it is our ambition that you can upgrade the editor without upgrading your source. So what you're seeing here is the property dialog for the LabVIEW project. You can see you can actually select and specify what version to keep that code base in, going all the way back to 2017. You just can't see it in that scroll wheel. And the idea is you can then open this project in 2024, 2025, 2026, and it will not change the source. It will not change the version of the source. So if one of your teammates is still in LabVIEW 20 whatever, 2021, 2017, they will still be able to work on that code base and it will not change. It will not be upgraded. Now for builds, you still have to use the intended version for a built binary output. But from an editor workflow, you can use all of the new things, all of the things we just talked about, right? So all of the zoom and debug windows, all of those are fully available to you, even if your code is still in the older version of LabVIEW. Now, if we introduce a new syntactical element, as we have, that's not compatible with your prior version, LabVIEW is smart enough to tell you. So I think there's a picture in here. Let's see here. So there we see edit VIs, version independent. Okay, so there, if you look at that screenshot, you can see it's got the red bang that's saying LabVIEW 2020. And in this case, this is showing an example of we've introduced some incompatibility to the code, namely that the connect pane pattern that's been wired into the OpenVI reference, that particular syntactical expression wasn't available in 2020. And so then it gives you that red bang. It takes you to the warning. It will still execute your code. It'll use the newer version of the execution system, but it will warn you, and that way you can ensure you and your teammates stay in older versions. I will say most of the enhancements in recent years have been to the IDE, so expect to be able to take full advantage of most of them without incurring these types of warnings. And it looks like in my haste, I put the same slides in twice. So good. Got it twice. All right. Let's move on to diff. So you've got the version independence. Now your team of developers can more easily collaborate across LabVIEW versions. One of the big things that a lot of people want and expect to use is to be able to compare changes to files. If we're being honest with ourselves, this has not been the most useful of tools. First off, many may know it's available from the tools menu, but it requires that you point it to both file paths. So hopefully everybody has set it up with Git and whatever Git client they're using so that it's using the command line to pull down whatever version you're comparing it to. But even then, the issue is that the report it gives you is not easy to navigate, easy to understand, or easy to include with a pull request, which is often what we really care about when we actually submit that pull request. Do my teammates clearly understand what is different about this file? So those are our goals with the changes you're about to see. We are making it easier to navigate and understand. So first off, each difference is actually annotated in the differences dialog and the annotation visual. You can see buttons on the differences dialog actually let you copy the images shown directly to the clipboard, making it really easy to then pop those into a pull request. And so there you can see we're actually embedding that pull request and just pasting that image directly into it. In this case, I think in a browser-based Git workflow. We have, oh goodness. Okay, so that belonged in the previous section. Let's come back to that. In the VI comparison report, you can actually generate a report of various file types. So you can see the create report in the bottom corner there. You can generate HTML report, and that can be on a per VI basis or for the entire hierarchy. So you can actually navigate, you know, which files have changed and what within those files have actually changed. Forgive the inconsistency. This belonged in the previous section. Nice little enhancement to the list box, multi-column list box table and tree controls. You now have word wrap options, allows text in the cell to display in multiple lines. And there are new VI properties for reading and writing these settings via scripting. Sorry, thanks for your patience. I'll blame again. We're just out of the NI Connect fog and trying to give you the latest content.
Move fast
Okay,
and break
so
things, right? Just move fast.
yes, sir. Move fast. I'm moving fast. I'm trying to brain dump. Another big one is containerization. So it was mentioned in the last session the importance of having automated build steps for, I think you were building a PPL for the custom step types and test stand. I've done that. It's not something you want to do manually, especially if you're doing it on a regular basis. And a lot of people use some sort of automated workflow as a part of their source code control. Most often it's a VM running in somebody's computer under a desk somewhere. So you kick off that process. Maybe it's doing static analysis. Maybe it's doing unit testing. Maybe it's building your package or an executable. But increasingly, we're seeing more and more customers really want to use containers. So unlike a VM, a containers is really for the application layer components of your software stack. You can easily scale them up and out based on the volume of demand and the activities required. So you can have a pre-configured Docker container and go launch your unit tests, your static analysis, or maybe spin up different versions for different runtimes or execution targets or configurations. So it's a very common practice to use a Docker container for this purpose. People have done it with LabVIEW. It has been, for the masses, just too hard to configure and set up. So along with the release of LabVIEW 2025 Q3, we will actually be publishing a pre-configured Docker container to Docker Hub. So the simple command line of getting the LabVIEW 2025 Docker image will work. That, of course, cannot let you install kernel level components like drivers, but for the application software components, we are expecting and hoping that this becomes a starting point for automating some of these tasks. We've heard a lot of feedback about asks for a Windows-based Docker container, so I know Austin and the team are actively exploring the viability of that. This is just a first step. I see a few questions coming up, so we'll pause. I'll take a breath. Jesper, what's up?
So just a quick question on how to log into the Docker container. I mean, to activate LabVIEW in that one. Could you elaborate on that?
Great question. I had lots of meetings about the license policy and the EULA to make sure this was allowed. So we have actually modified our EULA to make sure it's permissible. The exact way you activate it, of course, I should know that. And I have to be honest, I don't remember. Austin, do you remember? No. Okay. I'll send a message to somebody. Great question. We talked about sending a string through the CLI. We talked about having pre-configured in the Docker container. I do not remember where we landed on that. So I will make a note.
Depending on how we changed the EULA informed how we did the licensing, but it's in an email somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe I get an answer from the team before the end of this meeting. If I do, I'll let you know. I saw a second hand. Anybody else have a question about LabVIEW and Docker?
Is it also supported in Windows or just Linux? Okay.
Just Linux for right now. Now, thanks to Microsoft efforts, there is the ability to run Windows in a Docker container. So I think the feedback was pretty loud and clear from some of the closed doors discussions at NI Connect that we need to prioritize that as well. And so you can imagine using this to actually automate the execution of your generation of reports, by the way, as an example, to tie that back to the diff and merge utilities, since of course those are exposed via command line interface. Let's see here. All right, so that's kind of a quick crash course. I do have this slide that may have more information on CI and CD activities. Of course, I want to be clear. A lot of people have done this. There are actually some great tools out there. If you guys know Yorick Campbell, he, for example, has a CD tool built for LabVIEW to automate deployment activities. Sam Taggart a champion based in Colorado, also has a lot of tooling and content on this topic. So I think dev operations is clearly something the community and some of the community leaders have really been advancing the state of the art of. And what we are doing is working with those individuals and working with the open source leadership team to really use that to understand where and how we need to improve the product to better enable those types of tools and workflows. Okay, AI, it's a thing, and it's been a big focus for us in the team. And I'm going to let Austin introduce you to our efforts here.
Yeah, thanks, Eli. So on the next slide, same slide you've seen a few times now, but within our investment areas, how we integrate AI into the platform has been a big focus for the last year plus. And last time I Connect, we came out and said, hey, we're working on it. We have some ideas, we have some thoughts, but we really wanted to take time to build the right thing right and build it once. And what we've really seen is amazing in the past year or so is the trend in AI continues to accelerate. So on the next slide, as we've looked at how we can bring AI to the market, how is and what AI going to build going to be better or different than the latest Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini update? Because as those tools get more powerful, we need to make sure that our AI tooling continues that trend, but also is focused at test and measurement. And so Nigel is our AI advisor. We'll show you some of the details in a second. But Nigel is really trained and targeted at test and measurement specifically. So while those other AI assistants are going to be very powerful, very interesting for a broad range of topics, we've trained the models that Nigel uses, the data, the deep learning algorithms in it to be focused at what is test measurement hardware, how do you write test plans, how do you do data analysis within test, what is LabVIEW, and how do you write code in LabVIEW differently than how you'd write code in C# or Python. And so we're excited that as we've built up our platform with Nigel, we will actually get the benefit of this rise in AI across the board. Similar to when we built PXI embedded controllers based on Intel silicon, every time Intel released more powerful silicon, our architecture could slot in that silicon and become more powerful within PXI compute. Same idea here, as OpenAI and Microsoft and Google pour billions of dollars into general purpose AI and making their models stronger, we get the benefit of that investment. So even in just the past year, you can show the next one, we've seen really incredible changes in the industry. From when our last presentation was, we had a small tech preview. If any one of you were involved in that, you could see kind of an early use case of the AI tools last year. We've seen up to 1,000 times reduced cost in how we're sending data and tokens into these models. So one, that's nice on the back end, it's cheaper, but what really is great is for the same amount of money, we can send way more prompt detail, way more like RAG automation, really getting into the weeds of how we're sending information into the LLM to get much better responses. Additionally, we've seen speed increase. A year ago, if we asked our Nigel tools to describe a VI or write some simple code, it could take 1 or 2 minutes, depending on the complexity. And we've seen that come down to 5 seconds, and for most cases, as well as a better context. So as context grows, we can feed the AI tools more context about your LabVIEW VI or your test and application. And with additional context comes better accuracy. And then search as well, what content these tools can take in. It's not just text from the web, it's videos, it's documents, it's the deep guts of NI.com and all the knowledge-based articles we have internally as well. All of those things really build out a better assistant, and we expect all that to continue. There's no end in sight in how there's really a new Moore's law coming to market on how quickly these AI technologies are growing in speed and in ability to do complex tasks. So all that to say, what that built into is in July, we announced last week that we are bringing the AI Advisor to LabVIEW Professional and Test and Development System in the 2025 Q3 release. So anyone who has LabVIEW Pro or Test and Dev today with a subscription or SSP in order to get 2025 Q3, you will have access to the AI advisor. So no extra cost, no paying for extra prompts or anything. You just get it included. It's a value add of coming to LabVIEW. Now, in this first release, we've limited the scope to make sure Nigel is really powerful at a smaller number of tasks rather than doing a lot of things mediocrely. And so with this July release, Nigel will be able to give you information about the VIs you have open, give you guidance on how to modify them or your test end sequences as well, where are the settings I need, what is happening within this test end sequence, where is that VI I can't find, help me find that function or example. Nigel is really this a advisor sitting on your desk, saving you time, saving you energy that you when you're looking for things and Google gives you a strange result, Nigel can actually go find the help documentation immediately and give you a much faster answer. So next, what is Nigel? So Nigel is our AI intelligence, AI advisor that will eventually be across the Ignite platform. We've started within LabVIEW and Test Stand as we have the most users there. That's the most energy bang for our buck. But over time, Nigel will grow and learn about their whole test application from requirements into writing code all the way into data analysis. Also, with Emerson, there's some benefits of being part of this larger corporation. Emerson has already built a secure cloud operations platform for some of their other products. So we were able to draft off of the investment they've already made on security, on being compliant with a number of standards and state-of-the-art cloud infrastructure. So Nigel is running locally on your machine, but then it's connecting to the greater Emerson cloud instance, as well as the OpenAI models from Microsoft. So one way we've architected Nigel is to really take advantage, like I said, of the investment in AI. And we can actually choose which models are most performant for our applications. Right now, we have a strong partnership with Microsoft in Azure and OpenAI, and their APIs are really flexible. So that they both have privacy and security guarantees, and they have the endpoints we need to go tap into those models. Over time, if we see Google or Anthropic or other teams catch up to where OpenAI is, we have the flexibility to move to those models, or one day, not in July, we'll give you the flexibility to choose the model you would like to use as long as it's at a certain caliber. So we've built a platform that really connects LabVIEW, test and measurement into the AI megatrend here. So there's lots of details here. We use TLS as we encrypt web traffic. We use mutual TLS between inside the OpenAI models. But overall, we just want to assure you that we've spent some serious time thinking about ensuring safety and security and privacy, which drafts up what Microsoft does, and then we've added on top of it. Last thing, Nigel, we're not training on your data. We're not storing your data on our side. All of your prompts are saved locally in case you need to see them later or send us feedback on how Nigel didn't respond correctly. But we at Emerson and I cannot look at the prompts you're sending, the VIs you're sharing, the test and sequences you're editing. Those are secure and safe on your machine. So let's focus on a little bit. Who is Nigel for? What is the kind of target audience here? So in July, like I said, we focused Nigel on a few key use cases. Finding examples, getting started, learning about the environment. In general, Nigel will make everyone more productive. Even Eli and I have been using LabVIEW. I'm sure some of you have been using LabVIEW for 10, 15, 20 years. You will find benefit in Nigel. However, the people who are going to find the most benefit in Nigel are newer and experienced users. Because as we've all seen, as we've all trained people on LabVIEW, there's lots of questions that are maybe not intuitive, or you can't find the right help documentation. We really want to accelerate the onboarding for LabVIEW and Test Stand, which we know are really powerful tools, but sometimes a little complex or not straightforward. Where is that setting in Test Stand I need? Oh, it's 3 submenus deep. That's not very helpful for a new user. So Nigel is going to be able to find that information quickly, even change those settings without you having to open those menus and save you time and effort. For more experienced users, really those finding settings, kind of think of it as some of enhanced quick drop capability, advanced operations, Nigel will get you started and make you go faster from an efficiency, from a time savings perspective. So let's dig into a few of the ways, what it actually looks like. I have a demo video. If we have a little bit of time, I can show it live. I don't have my Nigel box handy, but right now with LabVIEW,
Sorry, hang on.
51, please. In LabVIEW, because of the different front panel objects, block diagrams, product windows, Nigel exists as a separate window. So there's this Nigel window here. It is integrated in the IDE with certain shortcuts, but then this assistant window pops out, and you can chat with Nigel just like you would chat with any other AI assistant. You can ask Nigel to describe VIs, get help finding applications, even help guidance on how I should modify this. I want to add logging. I want to make this more parallel. How do I save memory? Nigel will give you recommendations on how to improve your VIs there. It's also integrated into the, we have this lower down. Okay, so on the next slide, I'll talk about how do you get access, and then we'll dig in a little bit. So how do you get access to Nigel? It's a good question. In 2025 Q3, I believe it's in the second week of July timeframe, Nigel will be available. Anyone who has a subscription license or an active service agreement. That could be enterprise agreement, volume license agreement, partner bundle, or just you have a perpetual license with active SSP. When you install and activate LabVIEW 2025 Q3, Nigel is available there. So suites, all of those things. We were trying to go broad in who has access to Nigel. It is going to be installed with LabVIEW. We are working on guidance if you want to turn off Nigel, which is a question we've gotten, totally fair. For security and things, you can disable the ports and disable the services that are running Nigel, so you don't have to do it at all if you don't want to. But Nigel will just come with LabVIEW and Test Stand when you go install them. LabVIEW Pro, Test Stand Dev, when you install them in July. So let's dig in a little bit on what this actually looks like. So in the IDE, there's a few different places you'll find Nigel. One is in the global search bar up in the toolbar, which used to be global search. Now that search bar includes AI-powered Nigel search. So when you're searching for things, it's searching both all of the palettes and functions you have, as well as the examples installed on your machine. And then in the context help window, there's this handy little discuss with Nigel button, which will specifically focus Nigel on the VI you are giving it context on. So in general, Nigel will answer questions and search for you. But if you want to feed Nigel this specific VI's information, you can hit discuss with Nigel. He will describe that VI. It will process the data that you're focused on. So what that looks like is like this. Imagine on the left hand, the block diagram, you click discuss with Nigel. Basically that comes out that says this, tell me about VI. It'll take a quick snippet, a quick PNG of your block diagram, pull it in and tell you what's going on. It gives you description, all of the controls and indicators in that VI, and gives you a rough architectural kind of understanding of what's happening there. We're excited about this feature because all of us have had the experience where you pick up some code that came from somewhere else. Maybe a colleague retired. Maybe the person you don't think is very good at LabVIEW wrote some code you don't understand. Maybe you forgot to write comments or documentation in your VI from 7 years ago. But you can pick up a piece of code, ask Nigel about it, and really accelerate how quickly you're up and running, understanding what's going on there. So even if this example here is relatively straightforward, I'm initializing queues, I'm adding that to the UX, that's fair. But for complex code, especially without any documentation, Nigel will help you go faster in understanding what's going on here. How do I need to make edits? Can you give me just an overview of what this code is doing? Nigel can actually do that even without opening the block diagram. You can hover over sub-VIs and hit describe, and Nigel will open them without you having to load them into memory. It will give you a description of sub-VIs that are on your block diagram as well. So moving on, also getting help. So actually understanding what's going on in each of these things. For example, it's telling you how we're doing error handling, what these different nodes are doing. Tell me about these controls, these indicators. You can also ask Nigel if there's errors or improvements here. So if you want to make updates on a piece of code that you're not as familiar with, Nigel will help you go faster there. The thing I'm most excited about, though, is this global find functions examples. I have this experience often, maybe I'm just forgetful, where I don't remember the exact name of the primitive I want to quick drop. So I'm trying to type something, I'm like, new array, create array. Oh, actually, what I want is initialize array. I didn't type it exactly, so quick drop isn't aware. We want to integrate Nigel in that workflow as well. But now you can actually go up to the upper right-hand corner and say, save data or create array. And Nigel will give you an examples of palette items you might want and an example. So if you don't know how to use that palette item, I don't know how to use TDMS write. Well, there's a TDMS write trigger data example down below that it will surface for me too. I don't think we have a screenshot of it. Eli, stay back on that last slide. What's cool as well, if I can find the GIF, is Nigel also gives you rationale for why it surfaced the results it did. So in this example, it's just save data. You can ask Nigel a whole question in this search bar, and it will give you results here. When you hover over all of these lists, will give you a rationale on what is this guy doing? Why did Nigel surface this? Why is this the best idea for my application? And then you can do three things. You can drop that palette, the primitive from the palette or that sub-VI. You can find it within the palette. So if it'll both help you fish and teach you to program. So where is write to text file so I can use it next time? Or where is that palette of functions? I want to look at other write to text functions. Other data logging functions, it'll show me where in the palette that is, as well as help. If you click that help button there, it will pull up the LabVIEW documentation for that specific sub-VI or function for you. So it's not just a faster way to search, it's giving you all this rich data around your natural language queries. You don't need to know the right LabVIEW terms, you don't need to know the exact names of things. One search will find all you need to know, give you both the functions and the examples to work it. Okay, and then last thing, Nigel will also help you with LabVIEW Editor and different measurement tasks. So how do I enable the VI server? Here's a bunch of options you have to go through. Also in July, we're not totally there yet, we're still working. Nigel will have a lot more knowledge around hardware. And so you'll be able to ask things like, what is the pinout for this 6363? Which pin should I use for AO7? Help me set the ideal sampling rate for this scope to see this phenomenon. So Nigel is not only learning about LabVIEW and test stand, but it's learning about test and measurement as a whole. I think that's my last slide on Nigel. Questions? I'll look in the chat real quick.
Jesper has one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Did you also train Nigel on historical data like old PXIs and old DAC cards, so that you can do that, compare these two, tell me which one I need now?
Yeah, in the July release, you'll be able to ask Nigel things like, I have a 6172, I want to move to a different card, help me pick between these two. And Nigel can do some compare on this one has 32 AI, this one has 32 AO. But yeah, it will have that kind of deeper analysis of test and measurement concepts, not just what is a DIO, but why I might need 60 of them, or why 4 extra counters on the X series is better than the B series, or what have you.
Okay. That's a crash course in AI. That's something where if we want to see demos, get our hands on it, of course, it's going to be in the next version of LabVIEW. But also we can follow up if there's additional questions. We have 2 other topics to get through, so we're talking fast. Austin and I had our coffee this morning. Shall we plow ahead? Okay. So the next one is probably a product you've heard about before, SystemLink. I wanted to make mention of this because I personally have seen people light up when you talk about like, hey, if you're walking around with a jump drive to distribute software, wouldn't it be nice if there was a better way? But I've seen the deflation when people realize the complexity and the cost and the time and energy of deploying SystemLink for any even modest scale. And that's the key thing that I want to make this group aware of, is that we announced some pretty important changes to the SystemLink portfolio at NI Connect. For anyone not familiar with it, though, I mean, this is a product born out of again, kind of that natural evolution of our customers. They do a great job with our products, and suddenly they have 5, 10, 20 systems, half of them in China or India or the US or whatever. And so there's a lot of overhead with managing those systems, getting the data from those systems, ensuring the hardware is working, that the software and the configuration of those systems is correct. And this gave birth to SystemLink some 10 years ago, which initially focused on, larger scale enterprise class systems. But it is really focused on the engineering applications, of course, because that's what we do, and all of those activities that really become challenging at scale when talking about distributed, multi-heterogeneous systems and all of the multiple embedded controllers that go into them. And it also actually ties back to themes around collaborating with a team. So jumping ahead a little bit, what we've announced a new version of SystemLink that is far more approachable, both in terms of price and complexity. So SystemLink, now the base version, is something that you can install on a Windows server with no services, no support from NI. Of course, we still have our enterprise class system, which is all about IT scale and Kubernetes infrastructure, but most of our customers and most of our partners are dealing with, 5, 20, a few dozen systems, and they want to be able to enable these types of deployment and collaboration workflows. So that has given rise to this latest version of SystemLink. It's actually something you can also purchase from distributors like C&Ruud if you're interested in evaluating or using it. And there you can see that base version is really designed around teams of 5 to 10 people with up to about 25 different test systems, and enables all those centralized deployment workflows, data aggregation, test asset management, creating dashboards, etc. So I wanted to make that known. Of course, it's always been built from the ground up with first-class LabVIEW integration and APIs for sending data, sending files, building dashboards, etc. If you're building a PPL as your output, as an example, you can package that up as an NI package file, push that to your systems, push out your driver versions, your LabVIEW versions, all thereby ensuring that they are the intended version, and that all your systems are the same. So there's a quick snapshot of some of the comparisons. I don't mean to go into too much detail. I'm assuming most people here have at least heard of SystemLink before, but I was really excited and wanted to share the announcement about this lower cost, much easier to install and set up version of SystemLink. Another one of those things where if you want to go deep, you want to have a deep dive between C&Ruud or NI, we'd be happy to come back and answer any additional questions you have. But as the community guy, I wanted to end by this third pillar around building community. So we talked about strengthening software. Hopefully it's clear how we're really focused on a workflow-centric approach as we look towards the future of these tools and our investments. When it comes to the community pillar, take a breath. I think this is something that we as a company have come to realize how critically important this is just in the last few years. I think I will go so far as to say we kind of took it for granted in the last decade or so. And of course, people look to Python and they talk about, oh my God, it's such a huge ecosystem, right? The community is massive, and it's true. But the thing that's so different is that Python is used by anyone and everyone for it's jack of all trades, master of none, arguably. And I don't mean to pick on Python. There's lots of examples out there, and there's lots of tools out there. The thing that's so powerful about the NI community and the LabVIEW community especially is that if you get a group of LabVIEW users together, they generally are doing very similar things, right? They're interacting with the physical world. A lot of programming languages exist because they serve different use cases. LabVIEW is a programming language that really focuses on interacting with the physical world, talking to I/O, and all of the challenges that are specific and built into that task, because it's non-trivial, as we all know. And so what we really want to do is really reconnect our community and our user base and empower them to do the great things that they do through collaboration with us and with each other. So the community initiative, which again, I run the community program, is split across these 6 pillars. First and foremost, we are making a really big move into open sourcing more of our products. Anyone who's gone to github.com/ni will know that there's actually hundreds of open source libraries that have been up there for years. This is an important change, though, because what we're doing is actually then treating some of those repos as source for the products we ship. And I see Jesper nodding his head because I know he's actively involved with some of those efforts. But the ambition here is that we can radically expand the amount of our software portfolio that is available and open source. The goal here really to enable that collaboration with our users. Going through the other quick pillars, product roadmaps, Austin and his team have not only increased investment, they are publishing the roadmaps to ni.com, which I think is an important change. And I realize I'm stealing my own thunder. So let me get into some specific details here. Let's talk about user events first and foremost, because we're in a user group. So when I first joined the team, as best we could tell, there were about 20, 25 active user groups that were healthy and meeting on a regular basis. And we've already more than doubled that, and we're on pace to easily double it again. So here you can see a little snapshot that's a generated slide that shows where we're having active, healthy user groups and where we expect to have active, healthy user groups by the end of the next 6 months. So I think it's super easy to get to at least 100 active, healthy user groups that are meeting every quarter, just like this one. Many of them are in person, some are virtual. But the point here is that we have a team, Adam being a great example of that exists to support and enable these types of coming togethers of our users. GDevCon is something where we love sponsoring. It's really the ultimate user group. And as far as what we're doing to enable that, there's the obvious stuff, right? We can promote this. We work with our partners like C&Rude to make sure it's promoted, to make sure you have great food, that you can find a venue, but also that you have the online community forum to share and keep in touch with the colleagues between meetings, to share recordings. We also want to do a better job of curating, making content available. Of course, the slides we're looking at right now are something that we expect a lot of user groups will ultimately see and use. But we also want to do a better job of aggregating really, really technical content like the presentation before mine, if presenters are willing to share their insights with other user groups, and of course, to also showcase the internal experts at NI and their uniquely valuable knowledge. So moving forward, that's going to be something that you can expect to see more of. And we also have a growing number of user groups that are actually private to a given account. So if you have a large organization, they want to share best practices across teams. We're seeing a lot of success and interest in those types of user groups. And personally speaking, I do my best to get to as many of these user groups as I possibly can. I'm always so reinvigorated by the level of enthusiasm and engagement at these events. And I think they're just an awesome part of what makes our community special. When it comes to open source software, the two libraries we have open source so far are the Icon Editor and the Actor Framework. I was joined by a consultant on stage who explained that because of the changes to the Actor Framework, and namely the removal of the cyclic dependency, that we've seen build times get radically faster. But this is just the start. It's 2 repos. And we've used these as an opportunity to really build out the pipelines, define the contribution guidelines. We have PowerShell scripts for how these are tested and validated. And I have an individual on my team, a former, well, I'll say he's still a LabVIEW champion, even though he works for NI, but a LabVIEW architect, LabVIEW champion, Sergio Valdarian. He was previously at Conrad and Averna and is now leading the open source initiative and working closely with steering committees for both these efforts. And we are pivoting from really standing up that infrastructure to scaling out this effort. So as a sneak peek, this is kind of our short list of what might be next. No promises, no guarantees. Austin, you, me, and R&D leaders got to get in a room soon and hash through this. But the idea here is we want to radically expand the number of repos very, very soon. And I'll point to something like, of course, Icon Editor and Actor Framework are in the product. And the idea here is that's actually the product source. So if pull requests are accepted, that means it'll ship in a future version of LabVIEW. And you can see other examples of that on here as well. However, something like gRPC is something that is not currently part of a shipping product. It is open source, but not officially supported. And so that's an example where if we do dock it to this program, that's something that we would hope becomes officially supported by NI and potentially released as a VI package from the NI organization. But what we need to understand and evaluate is the feasibility of publishing these, but also the market value and the breadth of impact that these stand to have. And so any input that this group has and what they want to see open sourced, keep in mind, there's a very, very long spreadsheet. And so you're just seeing the top of the spreadsheet that can fit on a PowerPoint slide. We're not actually letting PowerPoint dictate our strategy, though. So there's a lot of things that under consideration. Know that we're biasing towards LabVIEW-based libraries first and foremost, and especially LabVIEW-based libraries that are a part of LabVIEW or LabVIEW-based toolkits. But you can see documentation, even training materials, aspects of other products are also being considered. So input and feedback on this list is welcome. As I mentioned a second ago, when it comes to product roadmaps, we've actually started publishing these to ni.com. So if you scan that QR code, Austin and his team are keeping probably a 6 to 12 month look ahead live and available on our website. So these will be kept up to date as time progresses. And you can see it's not just LabVIEW, but all the products listed there. And this is not just FYI, this is an opportunity to engage. So give us feedback, what's missing, what needs to come sooner. Please do feel free to reach out to myself or Austin if you have thoughts or comments on that. Talking about training and certification, we did announce some important changes to the certification program. So if anyone here or if any of your colleagues or friends have let their certification lapse since 2020, for the remainder of the year, we are actually going to let them get back into a current active status through the recertification point system. And furthermore, we're doubling the point value of events like this. So if you present, that's now 10 points. If you're organizing, that's now 20 points. And we're also going to be announcing a point system for contributing to open source collaborations as well. So again, the idea here is just to make it really easy to get and stay certified, but also incentivize sharing that knowledge and expertise with the community. Last topic. Can you guys still hear me? My AirPods died. I want to make sure my audio is still working. Okay. So last topic is academia. We've heard from a lot of people that we need to really increase our visibility and engagement with students and universities. So we are launching a global program to do a series of workshops at leading universities all around the world. The idea here is to increase the number of students that are graduating with the skill sets that our customers are actively hiring for. We're hearing a lot of feedback that they can't hire enough LabVIEW programmers. We're also hearing they can't hire engineers who have heard of the phrase test and measurement. So the idea here is to really make sure engineers understand what test and measurement is, understand the how to do instrumentation and measurements, and of course how to use tools like LabVIEW to do so. Here you can see me and Norm at University of Texas Austin here in town doing one of these workshops. We've been piloting them at schools all over the place. We've gotten really, really positive feedback. I actually didn't know what to expect from a room full of 20-year-old kids that probably have some exposure to Python and other tools. And I got to say, it's a lot of fun because these kids consistently say like, oh my God, this is awesome. I was at Tufts University and I was helping a group of students use LabVIEW and they were kind of struggling. I suggested they click the highlight execution button. And when they saw that data flow, they were floored. They were like, oh my God, that's amazing. So we are also looking for LabVIEW advocates and champions who want to help us with this effort. If you have a university down the road, if you know a professor, if you work with a group of students and are interested in running one of these workshops, we can provide laptops, we can provide hardware, although it's way harder than it should be to build a set of hardware for these, but I'm working on it. But the idea is we want to provide the curriculum, the materials, the resources to do as many of these workshops as we possibly can. And Ritu has personally funded my teams to actually launch and scale this effort out. So university is another big focus for us. Okay, we're right at time. I got through all the slides we planned to. I hope this kind of give you a really high-level crash course in some of the key themes from NI Connect. If you have any questions or feedback, I think Austin and I can stick around and do our best to answer any thoughts. Comments. Hopefully this is what you guys wanted to hear.
Yes, I can see there's maybe one. I want to say thank you very much. I got a lot out of it, and I can see there's a lot of clapping. We will keep the meeting open if anybody has some questions. I think Jørgen still have a question. No. Anybody have some? Yeah, Jesper have a question.
Oh. Yeah. So what I also put in the chat is regarding the open source initiatives. It's of course important that there's a team behind to grab this the project side of it, and of course we're a couple of people involved in the icon editor, and also the actor framework. But as the number of projects grow, there's ample opportunity for everyone to join in on this. So if you have spare time and you want to learn something and get some certification points and so on, this is a really good opportunity to get to do some more LabVIEW stuff. So I can only argue that people should definitely join in. So.
Next up is Jorgen.
And me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it's really good you're back at universities. I have a lot of cooperation with universities. So I was wondering, and with various professors, I was wondering how should they contact you? I probably won't be dealing directly with you, but I know they would love this.
So like Adam on my team, he's running user groups. I have another person on my team. Her name is Nikita, who is a dedicated program manager for all of our academic efforts. So you can start with me. I can put you directly in contact with her, but she is the point of contact for all of these. She's taking care of, when is the hardware available? Where are we shipping it? What curriculum is it going to use? And she's trying to build out a community page where all of those resources and requests can easily be centralized. We don't have that quite yet. So for right now, it'll be email communication with her and myself.
Could you share that with us or with Anders and he can share it further? So I'll gladly just contact her. It's just, would be nice to know who to contact and like a topic to nail it on.
Yeah, I'll put her email address in the chat as well as mine.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Jonathan, did you have something?
Yes, I had a short thought, but I wasn't sure if to bring it up here now. But when Austin and Eli are here, one thing that I've been looking out in the last years was the dependency management in LabVIEW. And last year with Q3 of LabVIEW 2023, we had an official release of the JKI Dragon. But since then, there has been basically pure silence around it, and the issues on GitHub are not answered or not reacted to, and personally, I can say it doesn't work for deployment as good as it should for a released product. So I would love to give it as feedback and be happy to help on working bugs out.
Yeah, we know. And the ambition is that Dragon is still a core part of our platform. For anyone who doesn't know, it does a good job of parsing your project and saying, here's the NI packages and the VI packages that you need so you can reproduce it. We expected them to release a new version alongside 2025. So that should still be coming out. It might be slightly delayed past the release of the Q3, but there will be an updated version. And so any concerns about features or things not working, should still be surfaced. You can bring it to us or to JKI. And but it is very much intended to be a core part of the platform for dependency management.
Yeah, good.
But that's good feedback. It's good to know that you've tried it, and if you've had frustrations with it, I think because it's so new, we're keen to understand those. So don't feel like you just have to take those to JKI. Myself and Eric Reffett I talk to Jim all the time. So feel free to bring those to me, and I'd be interested to keep tabs on how well it's working or not.
Yeah, because it's where many other languages have big advantages with their built-in or grown on package managers, and we have seen many of the user groups that there's many companies or people who have figured out 1,000 different ways to do it, except in LabVIEW themselves. There's no good standard way that works really good, because we want to have these tools working good so that they are efficient in our processes.
Just to make sure I capture the feedback. I mean, my personal feeling is VI Package Manager by itself actually does a really good job. But as soon as you need NI drivers and runtimes and so that's where NIPM is supposed to fill the gap. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but there's a lot of complexity with the MSI stacks. And so yes, Dragon's supposed to abstract all of that. We know, and we are actively looking at the future of our Starlink technology. Nothing's changing anytime soon. I can tell you that with confidence. But it's a big technical challenge, and we need Dragon to help us out. So yeah, let us know. For anyone that was in Stuttgart with me at GDevCon, you may remember we got some pretty strong feedback about NI Package Manager in that room. That has not fallen on deaf ears. So there is a lot of internal discussions happening about NIPM. The reality is, while NIPM and the aesthetic of it is not awesome, it's actually the byproduct of a lot of the complexity of how our MSIs are built, which is a very, very large multi-decade technical architecture. So there's a lot to unpack there. I don't want to go too deep into it. Please do keep sending the feedback. We are aware and interested.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
Yes. No more question. Then I think we will say thank you for today. And thank you for thank you to our presenters, and reach out to me if you want to present something next time in September or in November in Copenhagen or online.
Thank you.